Well, hello everyone, and welcome to my Lebanese kitchen table. Listen, I came out here last night, Thursday night. I left Heathrow Airport and everything was very calm in the rally world. I touched down in Beirut, logged on to the Wi-Fi, and my goodness me, rallying world had gone completely crazy, hadn't it? Chris Meeke had been sacked, and really that's the only way to put it, sacked by Citroën. But I've had, what, 24 hours now to think about all of this, and do you know, it's a difficult one, a really difficult one for me, because Chris and Paul are my friends, and I would call them friends. You know, I've got a lot of acquaintances in rallying, a lot of colleagues in rallying, but genuinely not so many friends. Chris and Paul are two of my friends, so it's a little difficult to be completely objective with this one. I think a lot of emotion, and there is a lot of emotion out there, a lot of people getting quite passionate about the situation, and that's absolutely understandable. Why is that? Well, it's because we love Chris Meeke so much, and Paul Nagle. And why do we love them? Well, because he epitomizes really that true spirit of rallying that we all find so exhilarating, so captivating. He is an absolute gung-ho, go for it every time, heart on the sleeve type driver. And do you know what? There aren't so many of them around these days. He really is a throwback to the days of Colin McRae and the absolute greats. And maybe that's been his downfall. The fact that really all he's interested in is winning and going quickly. I think that is why he's found himself in this situation. In fact, I'm sure it's the reason he's found himself in this situation. There's no doubting his speed, there's no doubting his talent, there's no doubting his ability. But there is some doubt over his attitude and his ability to, if you like, toe the line, to be a team player. You know, Chris Meeke is capable of winning every single rally that he enters. But what Citroën have found is that he's also capable of crashing on an awful lot of those rallies. And that for Citroën just wasn't good enough. Now, we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes, but, you know, anyone that wants a little more insight into this, perhaps have a look at David Evans's article on Autosport.com. I think it may be on their Facebook page as well. He does a really good piece, a really good opinion piece, and he talks with Pierre Boudoir, the boss of the Citroën racing team, the Citroën rally team. What I can say about Pierre Boudoir, is that he's a very, very decent guy. He's a proper rally man. He's an engineer. He's diligent. He's thorough. He's very, very likable. He's very quietly spoken, and I don't believe that Pierre Boudoir has been at all disloyal in his behaviour here. I think he's caught between a rock and a hard place. The decision for sure was a joint decision, but in terms of the influence for that decision, it's come from the very top of Citroën. It's come from Mr. Tavares at the top. It's come from Ms. Jackson below him. They're the ones, I think, who have basically loaded the gun, pulled the trigger, and shot Chris Meeke out of that team. It's tough. It really is tough for Chris. There's no question about that. But, you know, you look at it and you say, well, the team has a responsibility. The team has a responsibility to all its employees. And we've seen it in the past, and we don't have to look too far back in the past in motorsport, where we've had terrible accidents, and, you know, team bosses, team managers have been culpable for the results that have led to those terrible accidents, and particularly in Italy. You know, we've seen team bosses being charged with manslaughter in the past after some dreadful accidents. You have to be responsible for your employees, and there's a bit of that going on, I believe, within Citroën. You know, they just couldn't take the risk of not knowing what was going to happen. Every time he left service, they didn't know what was going to happen. Now, as I say, I find it very, very difficult to be completely objective about this, because, you know, we all love Chris Meeke, we all love Paul Nagle, but I have a degree of sympathy, it has to be said, for Citroën's situation. At the same time, I think the whole situation could have been handled better. I thought the press release they put out yesterday was very terse. In some ways a little bit rude, badly written, maybe a little bit lost in translation. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt there. But what it didn't mention, that press release, is that Chris Meeke is the second most successful Citroën driver in history. He won 5 events with them. He had a nightmare of a season in 2017 where the car clearly wasn't working well. He still managed to win rallies in 2017. I thought that was worthy of a mention in that press release. 5 wins for Citroën. The only one to have won more rallies for Citroën is the legendary Sébastien Loeb. Maybe that was a bit of an omission, but, you know, when things are so heated, when things are moving at such a pace, when decisions have to be made so quickly, sometimes you see omissions. And I think, again, giving the benefit of the doubt to Citroën, I'm going to say that was a bit of an omission on their part, and it wasn't a deliberate slight. They had to be precise in what they said in that release, and they were absolutely precise. There was no ambiguity in what they were saying. Chris and Paul were off. No hope of a comeback. There's no hope of a reprieve. They're off. They're finished. Their careers with Citroën are well and truly over. And I feel for them. I deeply, deeply, deeply feel for those boys, because they still had a job to do there and things were just beginning to come together. But what's the future for Chris and Paul? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think Chris will find it now very, very difficult to find a way back into the World Rally Championship. What is the future for Citroën? Well, what we have to hope is that there is a future for Citroën. We're all keeping our fingers crossed that 2019 is still in the planning, that they still plan to be around for 2019. 2018, rest of the year, you know, who's sitting on the sidelines that can jump in that car and can offer you the chance of a win on every rally? No one. No one. So I don't know what they do. I think Craig Breen could challenge in Finland, could challenge in GB. The other rallies, I think he'll be there to bring that car home and to score points. I think it's going to be a tough second half of the season for Citroën. I think they will struggle to find anyone else to jump into that car who can deliver wins. The only one is the obvious one, Sébastien Loeb. This is the big question for me. Has Mr. Tavares, don't forget, he is the ultimate boss of the PSA group, of Peugeot, of Citroën, of DS. He is the ultimate boss. Has he already sounded out Sébastien Loeb and said, look, you know, this is what we're looking at. If this situation happens, will you make yourself available for more than just Spain? I think that's a possibility. I think that's a real possibility. We might see a little more of Loeb this year. Does it open up the possibility for a long-term return for Sébastien Loeb? Does it perhaps open up the possibility of a return to Citroën at the end of this year for Sébastien Ogier? All of those things we have to consider, and all of those things will be well debated, well talked about between now and the end of the season. But I just want to finish my Lebanese kitchen table by paying tribute to Chris Meeke. He is a magnificent driver, and right now I think it's fair to say with 5 wins, that's a hell of an achievement. But for me, the greatest stage performance we have seen in recent history, maybe in the history of world rallying, his drive through Onimpoya on that Saturday morning where he blew everyone away 15-20 seconds out of the rest of the field, will live long in the memories of people who were there in the stage, myself at the stop line, those who have watched it many times on YouTube. It was one of the greatest stage performances we have ever seen, and it'll go down in history as just that. It'll take a long time and a lot of effort till we see anyone putting in a better individual stage performance than Meeke and Nagle on Onimpoya that year that they went on to win that event. That is the memory I'm going to take away with me from Chris Meeke's wonderful career. Is it over? Let's hope not. But if it is over, and that would be sad, then those 5 victories, that Onimpoya drive for me, will be the defining moments of his career. And that is a good and successful career. So there we are, folks. You know, an impromptu kitchen table, and one that really I would rather not have been doing. But those are my thoughts on the Chris Meeke, Paul Nagle Citroën situation.